Ever since chapter 1 of Deltarune, when we see Sans outside his house and he tells us about his brother, we've been asking that one question: where is Papyrus? And even according to Sans, he has his own house, but he's never around. And today I'm here to talk about why I believe the Papyrus we know from Undertale never really existed in Deltarune, at least not as we know him. The proof is all there. First, the revelation that Papyrus's personality in Undertale was guided by Flowey's whispers. Second, the key fact that since Azrael is alive, Flowey was never created, removing Papyrus's architect. Third, the sad evidence in the game itself. The sound behind his door isn't his triumphant fanfare, but a shy, lonely rattle of bones. And to figure out what's going on with Papyrus in Deltarune, we need to analyze all of that and much more, starting by deconstructing the character and the lie of the hero we thought we knew in Undertale, so we can then understand the real skeleton hiding in Deltarune. Our adventure in Undertale has barely begun when just outside of Snowdin, it takes a comical and bombastic turn. Here we meet a force of nature, Papyrus, or as he demands to be called, the Great Papyrus. From the very first moment, his personality is overwhelming. He introduces himself not as a simple monster, but as a celebrity, a future member of the Royal Guard destined for greatness. His attempts to capture the player are more comical than threatening, his puzzles more absurd than dangerous. Let's think about them for a moment. They aren't traps designed to harm, they're stages designed for interaction. The invisible, electrified maze where the solution is to simply follow his own footprints in the snow. The colored tile puzzle, which he admits he doesn't fully understand himself. And of course, the infamous plate of spaghetti left in the middle of the forest, not as an obstacle, but as a gesture of hospitality. Each of these challenges is an invitation. Papyrus doesn't want to stop us, he wants us to play with him. And every line of dialogue is filled with unshakable confidence and an iconic exclamation. In Undertale, Papyrus presents himself as a force of nature, a skeleton radiating unstoppable energy and bulletproof determination. But it's all a mask, because if you pay close attention, the game leaves little breadcrumbs, subtle hints that behind that loud facade, there's a skeleton far more vulnerable than he appears. The first crack in his armor of confidence doesn't come from him, but from those around him. His own brother, Sans, makes his strange request. He asks us to play along with him, to feed into his fantasy. Even the fierce Undyne, his mentor, admits that Papyrus is simply too good and innocent to be a real soldier. That's why, instead of training him for battle, she teaches him how to cook, trying to give him another purpose in life. And the irony is that despite his apparent naivety, Papyrus is the backbone of their home. He's the one who makes sure the bills are paid, who scolds Sans for his laziness, and who tries to maintain order amidst his brother's chaos. He's a pillar of responsibility disguised as a dreamy kid. The second clue is his true desire. For all his talk about the Royal Guard, his greatest desire isn't power or glory, but friendship. To be popular, to be accepted. The moment you stop fighting and offer him mercy, he doesn't see you as an escaped enemy, but as the first friend he's ever had. And once you offer him that friendship, he clings to it with an almost overwhelming loyalty. His constant comical calls in Hotland aren't just a running gag, they're the echo of a profound loneliness that has finally found a voice to talk to. This becomes painfully obvious in his own battle. It's the only fight in the game that is essentially impossible to lose. If your health drops to 1, Papyrus stops the fight. He doesn't kill you, he captures you, takes you to his garage, and leaves you with a plate of spaghetti, waiting for you to recover so you can fight again. He doesn't want your soul, he wants your attention. His final special attack, the absolutely normal bone, isn't even an attack. It's one last, desperate plea for you to stay, but the definitive proof, The biggest crack in his confident armor comes when we hang out with him. To learn how to treat a friend, Papyrus, the self-proclaimed the Great Papyrus, needs to consult a manual. He has to read instructions on how to act, what to say, and how to behave. This isn't just a joke. It's the revelation that his outgoing personality isn't innate. It's studied. It's a script he follows to the letter because deep down, he has no idea how to genuinely connect with others. These clues paint a different picture, a papyrus who's deeply insecure and desperately craves validation from others. The question is, where did he get the confidence to create that facade? To answer that question, we have to talk about a character who, so far, has not appeared in Deltarune, Flowey, the little golden flower who is actually a soulless monster, consumed by boredom and power. His origin is one of Undertale's greatest tragedies. Azrael, the prince, after absorbing Kara's soul and dying in the castle garden, turned to dust. From that dust, infused with the determination injected by Alphys into a golden flower, this creature was born, a being with Azrael's memories, but without his ability to love or feel compassion. This emptiness led him to absolute nihilism. With the power to save and reset, he lived every possible timeline, explored every dialogue, every friendship, every outcome, until it all became predictable and boring. The world became a broken toy, and its inhabitants mere puppets for his amusement. But in the world of Deltarune, this villain simply doesn't exist. Why? Because his origin is tied to Azrael's death, and here, in Deltarune, Azrael is alive and well, studying at a university. Without his death, there's no dust, no determination-infused flower, and no Flowey. And that absence changes everything. So what does this flower have to do with Papyrus's confidence? The connection is given to us by Sans himself in an optional conversation at Grillby's. If you ask him about strange things, he shares a fascinating detail about his brother. Sometimes when no one else is around, a flower appears and whispers things to him. Flattery, advice, encouragement, predictions. Weird, huh? A flower that gives Papyrus exactly what he needs to build his self-esteem. This isn't a coincidence. It's a key piece that connects to Flowey's own confession in Undertale's genocide route.
At first, I used my powers for good. I became friends with everyone. I solved all their problems flawlessly. Their companionship was amusing. For a while, as time repeated, people proved themselves predictable. It all started because I was curious. Curious what would happen if I killed them.
That whispering flower wasn't just an echo flower repeating old conversations. It was an active intelligence. It was Flowey. Through countless resets, bored with the same old routine, he decided to experiment, to manipulate. He saw an insecure skeleton and decided to build him. He whispered the compliments he needed, gave him the advice to appear more confident, and encouraged him to follow his absurd dreams. The papyrus we love was, in a way, his creation. The great irony is that this artificial personality, born from manipulation, would become something real thanks to the player. Papyrus's belief becomes so powerful that at the climax of the pacifist route, it's he who rallies all his friends to support you, transforming into the true hero he always pretended to be, a potential that, as we'll see, never had the chance to bloom in Deltarune. And so, with the key piece of Flowey in place, the mysterious situation in Deltarune takes on a tragic and heartbreaking meaning. Let's go back to hometown. Sans confirms that he and his brother moved in recently. And, just like in Undertale, he makes a similar request, but this time the tone is different. He asks us to hang out with his younger brother because he needs some friends. It's no longer it'd be great for him, but a necessity. This prepares us for the most revealing interaction of all, when we try to visit their house. No response, but the distant trussle of bones. That sound. In Undertale, the sound associated with Papyrus is Bon Trussel, a bombastic, energetic fanfare. Here, in the quiet of hometown, there's only a faint rattling. The silence between the clattering of bones says it all. It's the sound of loneliness. And here, all the pieces fit. In a world without Flowey to push him to be brave, without that voice whispering compliments and encouragement, Papyrus never came out of his shell. The skeleton hiding in that house is the original Papyrus. Shy, socially anxious, and too afraid to face the world. that rattling of bones isn't one of excitement. It's not the nyeh we're expecting. It's the sound of someone backing away from the door out of fear. That is the sad reason Papyrus isn't in Deltarune. He has simply never dared to come outside. Now, this theory, while solid, isn't without its complications. After all, Toby Fox is a master of misdirection. There are other dialogues associated with the house that mention a mess inside and a regular kitchen, a drastic change from the skeleton's house in Undertale, which Papyrus kept clean and modified with things like his peculiar sink. In Chapter 2, we can see Sans at a shop, and seconds later at the grill upstairs. In Undertale, with his magic and shortcuts, this would be normal, but Deltarune makes it clear that magic like that doesn't exist in the light world. And here's the key detail: when you see Sans upstairs, if you go back to his house, the sound of rattling bones has stopped. This has led some to wonder, what if the person in the house wasn't Papyrus? What if the younger brother Sans talks about is actually an identical twin, another Sans? Papyrus's absence has been such a huge void that the community has tried to fill it with the most extreme theories, even proposing that he could be the Roaring Knight himself. There's a certain resemblance, but the knight's silhouette has antlers or horns, a trait that visually connects it to the Holiday family, especially Des, whose disappearance is central to the plot. However, proponents of this theory point to an incredibly strange and specific clue. Upon entering Des's room, we find a closet whose door bears a strong resemblance to Papyrus's bedroom door in Undertale. Is it a simple coincidence? A visual nod? Or is it a deliberate connection between two of Deltarune's most mysterious and absent characters? While this connection is fascinating, the visual evidence for the knight points in another direction, making this creative theory unlikely. And this is where we have to set aside the wilder speculation and return to the hard evidence, to the truth hidden in the code. The game's official website description jokes meet new and endearing main characters as well as familiar faces like Toriel, Sans, and more. Huh? Papyrus? No, he's busy. Sorry. It confirms his existence while simultaneously playing with his absence, but the strongest evidence is hidden in the game's files. The variable that tracks whether you've spoken to Sans about his brother is called Pap Talkin'. The file name for the image of their house is BG Building Pap House. There's no room for doubt. And the final, most poetic clue is given to us at the very beginning of the game. If you try to name your character Papyrus, the mysterious voice responds, an interesting coincidence, just as it does with other NPCs who appear in the game. So with his existence confirmed, we return to the sad but hopeful truth. Flowey's influence was a false friendship, but in Deltarune, that influence has been replaced by the genuine request of a worried brother. The role of Papyrus's architect has been left vacant, and this time it won't be filled by a soulless flower, but by us, the players. The Papyrus of Deltarune has the chance to become himself, and we'll have the privilege of meeting the real Papyrus for the very first time. Papyrus's absence isn't just a mystery, it's a silent tragedy, that of a hero who was never born because he never had a villain to create him. But as we've seen, his presence is all but confirmed, and thanks to a hint from Sans himself, we might know exactly when the time is right. In Chapter 2, he tells us we might meet his brother when Asriel gets back home, and as Toriel confirms, Asriel is visiting next week. With the current events taking place over the weekend, the clock is ticking. His introduction isn't some distant promise for the end of the game. It could be quite literally just around the corner. But now I want to know what you all think. With Asriel coming home next week, do you think we'll finally meet Papyrus during the town's festival? Will he be as shy as his theory suggests, or will Toby Fox surprise us with something completely different? Let me know your own theories in the comments below.